Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, curious conversations about the Black and queer experience. I'm one of your hosts, Damon, and today, Jordan, Tony, and I are discussing being Black in that man's America.
I'm so tired of Trump's internet.
I can't take another news update.
But this is what happens when we vote in a reality TV star.
Who the fuck is we?
There needs to be some sense of unity among just the broader community outside of this cohort that's being sort of amplified through this administration.
Our idea of dream and success will never look like Donald Trump. And I don't think most of us are searching for something like that.
Yeah, it's really hard to muster up the energy again to give it that good old fight. And although that is the posture of a lot of us especially in times like these are the times in which it matters most.
This is Girl, Stay Woke.
Ooh, in that man's America.
That man's
Listen,
America.
the other day I said, I am so tired of Trump's internet.
I can't take another news update.
And it's not even anything having to do, well, I guess it has to do with him, but it's just like the constant cycle of everything's already breaking news when it's not him involved. But when it's him involved, it's like
everything is
hour on the hour.
Yeah. I get so many push notifications that's breaking, and I'm just like, please stop starting the post with that. It's so triggering.
The lies.
It's too much, but this is what happens when we vote in a reality TV star.
Who the fuck is we? See, I knew you voted for Trump. I knew you did. I knew
the majority of Americans voted. That's
actually,
what I mean when
the
I say
majority did not, but
the truth comes out.
He won the popular vote.
He didn't win the majority of Americans. He didn't win over 50%. That's what
well,
majority is.
You're talking about technically.
That's not the majority. The majority has a definition. I'm not saying something technically.
Of the people who voted is what Jordan meant.
He didn't win the majority of people that voted. He won 49% of the vote. That's not the majority.
Oh, I thought he won the popular vote.
He did win the popular vote. He won more votes than anyone else that ran. He did not win the majority of the votes for people that voted.
I think that we could probably word it differently where it's the majority of the people who voted for him.
That's not the definition of majority.
What's the definition of majority?
You have to have over 50% to have a majority.
Of everyone who voted. Yeah.
Yes, of any sample size. That's what the word majority means.
I don't know what those numbers are, so I'm not. Somebody can fact check that. Oh, they took fact checkers away. Sorry.
So right, he could be the majority. Let's just make it up. Make it up on Meta. But I was looking. I wasn't looking at a lot of this, but right now they're going through all the Senate confirmation hearings for cabinet members.
Yeah.
And typically, as people go through those confirmation hearings, you get vetted, and maybe shit from your past that you don't want to come out comes out. So today's game will be various scenarios that if we were being vetted through the Senate, who's most likely to have this scandal come out about them? So this game I'm calling Girl is a Scandal.
Girl is a scandal. An audit on your life.
So, the most likely to have hosted secret sex parties.
Oh,
I'll say
Damon.
I was going to say you.
Me?
See, I was going to say
the keyword is
the keyword is secret because I was like, Damon, it wouldn't be a secret.
Not a secret.
But maybe Jordan, it might be. It would definitely be a secret.
It's definitely the girls are signing NDAs.
Definitely the underground.
It wouldn't be a scandal because it wouldn't be a topic of conversation.
The Underground Railroad. It wouldn't be a scandal until they went to vet you, and then they found
that
out
exactly
that you were throwing. They're secret rendezvous.
They're from an anonymous source who cannot come forward because of the NDA. Jordan forced them to sign.
Oh my God.
We have a copy of the NDA.
Wow.
Right.
Can pull up a chart with the invite list.
All right. So the most likely to have a video of them blacked out carrying on at the bar.
Blacked out carrying on about the bar.
I don't know. I think it might be me, but it also might be Damon.
Yeah, it depends on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to figure out who. I feel like Tony is less likely to be loosey goosey.
Yeah, but I feel like when I feel the goose coming to loose, I'm out of that.
You're
bitch.
running out the party.
I am out of there, and I mean immediately.
Because anything beyond that, it's oh, bitch,
Right.
We lost them.
Right. The girls be like, "Oh, the people are over here at 6 a.m. When did you leave? 11:45.
Oh, hell
Because I
no.
felt things going awry, and I knew. I don't know. We're gonna give it a tie between me and Tony, depending on the circumstances. All right. Likely to have their sex tape leaked.
Likely to have their sex tape leaked. I hope mine gets leaked.
I'm gonna say it's Tony. She don't. I like to fuck like a porn star. Well,
I would love for mine to get leaked because when yours gets leaked, guess what happens?
What happened?
more hoes show up.
Well, you get it's the come up.
Oh,
It would be a great sex.
Right. So you're telling me that if the sex tip came out, it's giving the stock just
The price just went up.
When the price just went up,
Okay.
I'm definitely popular.
How many videos you got to date?
That will come out. I don't
No. Just like, in your own personal
in my
archive.
own of me. So the one I did have one, but I deleted it, and now I'm mad I deleted it because I want it now.
You wanted to look back at it.
Yeah,
now.
just you'll never be that young again.
Video from last night. All right. So most likely to have never stayed on budget at previous places of employment. They always blow in the budget. That's a part of the Senate confirmation hearings. Can you manage a budget?
Always blowing the budget. Probably Damon. You got the most expensive taste, and I feel like you would just be spending money.
Especially just somebody else's money.
Wait, you said the most likely to
Have blown a budget.
have blown a budget.
Yeah. Like they checking through your work. You ran a project at work. Did you go over budget or not? What the fuck are you talking about? I run the budget too.
I don't think
we be on the
mine
fucking
would
budget.
go over the budget. I'm gonna have to because I'm not handling the budget, so it's gonna have to be between y'all two.
I'm gonna say it's her.
So
I'm gonna say it's her because she the bitch that come in the last minute and be like, "Y'all, we got to spend some money on this." Be like, what the fuck? Because you ain't playing accordingly.
I'm efficient. Okay.
No, you're not.
I am. I do not spend a bunch of money on stuff. I'm always trying to figure out how to cut costs. It's you that's trying to
Bitch.
figure out how to add costs.
I will give very specific examples of our projects here.
Let's do
where
it.
you come in at the 11th hour spending more money.
Coming in last minute.
That's
with
how
an
budgets get
expense-
blown.
No. Budgets get blown from having unreasonable expensive tastes on things that aren't necessary.
No, I think sometimes because when I think about budgets coming over, it's usually a lot of times it's like
the 11th hour
stuff
thing.
that happens last minute that you didn't
If
put
I
any
planned
wiggle
to
room.
spend a lot of
You
money
didn't put
on
any
something,
wiggle room
I know what to
in
do.
the budget.
Well, I come under
No
budget
cushion.
in all of my projects.
No cushions.
So
Not this one.
I didn't manage this budget.
You are the reason. As the person managing the budget, you the one at the
answer is
11th hour.
Damon.
Trying
Ladies
to
and
spend this
gentlemen.
on Jordan because she ain't prepared. Most likely to have a secret recording of them losing their shit on somebody.
Losing their shit.
That was me.
Yeah.
Perhaps Damon.
That's Damon.
All right. Likely to be the most delusional and applying for a cabinet position they should have no parts of.
Oh my goodness.
Speaking of Trump's cabinet selects,
Child.
who's Pete Hegseth or JFK?
These names that are just like now in the
Right.
the zeitgeist.
I'm just
Pete
I don't
Hedge-
want to
like,
know who that is, but I
do
now know.
Why do I know that name? Not my genre. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't run for office, so I don't think it would be me.
I would. I feel like I'm doing a bunch of shit right now where it's just like, can you do that, Damon?
Well, yeah, I guess it's
Sure, why not?
Fake it until you make it, right?
I feel like, bitch, that's a part of this project.
Yeah.
Can y'all do this?
Like,
It'll
you have
something.
to.
What, there'll be
See.
something.
There'll be something.
There'll be something, and I'm sure you'll like it. So yeah, so that was fun. But our season 10, Girl Grow Up, we're revisiting topics again from anyone who's just joining from our very first season. This happens to be the revisiting to our very first episode, the politics of quarantine.
Oof.
Which it's crazy about the timing of things because at that time we literally recorded it the weekend that the George Floyd protest broke out. And now here we are recording something literally right after this person's second inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
And we are revisiting politics through a new lens and through the Trump 2.0 America, which, well, we're here.
Yeah.
We're here.
Mhm.
And
So-
Trump is rolling the tapes back.
Baby, it's giving. Take me home.
Take me home.
All right. So let's start here. After the demographic splits were released for the 2024 election, many Black Americans were left feeling alone, with many of us declaring, quote, "Don't person of color me, I'm Black." The reason for this, looking at the statistics, Black men voted 21% for Trump, Black women 7% for Trump. So lower numbers there. Latino men 54%, Latino women 39%, all other races 47%. Just for context for people who didn't know those stats. But what are your thoughts on the person of color versus Black conversation that I think many of us are having right now?
Oh my God. I just feel like I have a few thoughts around this topic. And one of the things that I find challenging is it's really challenging to feel like the United States of America when these states are far from united. And so that's just to start. I feel like the country is more divided than it's ever been, but maybe not. Maybe it's just because people have now permission to literally say the quiet part out loud. I think that is being uncovered. And so now it's more blatant and in our faces in a way that people used to like keep their racism and stuff maybe a little bit, curved it a little bit. So, but now it's just like everyone's running rampant. And I feel like people are not necessarily voting in their best interest. Like I think people are, there's a group of folks that are only voting in their self-interest and not caring about anyone else. And then there's a group of folks who are ignorantly voting not in their best interest. And so when I look back, like when you read those numbers and I'm just examining how everything went with the election, I'm like, yes, do not lump me in with all persons of color. I don't want to be lumped in. We are not a group. Yeah. we are not a group. We
tried to do the group project.
We tried to do the group project.
Everybody didn't want to show up.
We're not a group. And so I hate to feel that way, but I'm kind of like, let me look out for me and mine until everyone else can get on board with understanding what's actually happening and using common sense and actually real information and facts. So until we get that all sorted out, all I have is thoughts and prayers.
I mean, I think it's understandable for specifically Black Americans to look at those numbers or hear those numbers and feel some sort of resentment towards people within the broader POC umbrella, not necessarily showing up to vote for a candidate that was going to benefit those communities more. So I understand that resentment, but I also just feel like it's sort of like, I don't know, it's like a slippery slope in my opinion, I think at this very moment, to take these small groups and make them even smaller. Like I feel like the reality is that we're going to be living in an America that is going to disproportionately benefit white, Christian, heterosexual men of a certain socioeconomical standing. And I feel like that leaves a lot of the rest of everyone else sort of to fend for themselves and figure out how to be able to support themselves and have a chance. And I think that there needs to be some sense of like unity among just the broader community outside of this cohort that's being sort of like amplified through this administration. But, I'm starting to see like tweets and stuff like that, or just things on social media where I feel like Black Americans are celebrating sort of like Hispanic people being deported, and they're pointing to the Latino voting, results as a justification. I don't know. Like, when I see those types of posts, like that doesn't make me happy with where it's going. Like that makes me a little bit nervous, honestly. Obviously, I think that we can hold people accountable for whatever their reasonings are for voting the way that they did. But I don't know. I don't really have like hard and like stern rules around like I'm only doing it for the Black people. I do believe like making sure that you're prioritizing yourself is going to be really, really important for people to just keep their sanity. But I don't want to lose sight on like other people who aren't necessarily in my exact group.
Yeah, I think people have a shift in mentality around wanting folks to learn lessons.
Yeah.
Specifically, the people who did vote against their best in their own self-interest. Because I think a lot of folks just are ignorant, that they don't realize they're one-issue voters, and when they vote in a certain way, they're not realizing the impact that it's going to have and the repercussions. And we're about to see that. It's not even been a week at this point that we're recording,
Right.
this episode. So I'm just like, this man in the office is going to wreak havoc, and the folks who voted for him against their best interests are in for a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting perspective, and even dialing a level down to African Americans, like into ethnicity, where there's an interesting conversation I've had with people around the American dream. And particularly when we think of Latino communities and communities that have large immigrant populations that are coming to America, seeking out America, maybe a first or second generation American who are striving for said dream. And for a lot of people, rightfully or wrongfully so, that dream looks like the wealth, the celebrity, the notoriety of a character like Donald Trump. I think that African American people specifically understand that when we talk about that American dream, it often doesn't have shit to do with us. And I think that's why people are like, well, why are Black people so consistently in this Democratic box, even though I would not agree that that's a party that fully loves and supports us in all the ways that I think we deserve. But I also think that our idea of dream and success will never look like Donald Trump. And I don't think most of us are searching for something like that. I think that we've spent 400 plus years and many generations in this country realizing that ain't gonna be us. I am never going to get to be able to commit all these fucking crimes, become a felon, like have sexual assault charges raised against me, and become president.
Yeah.
In what world,
In
right?
what realm? There's no realm of reality where I'm going to be able to storm the Capitol of the United States of America, beat on police officers, tear down shit, and be pardoned by the president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And I think that, no, I do not take any level of like joy in the pain and the harm that comes to communities based on our current environment. But I do think that we're in a space where people, I think you made a good point about one issue voters. I would say that a lot of Black people we do not have the luxury to be one issue voters. And it was something that I was saying through conversations about the economy. It was something I was saying in conversations we were having about the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. It was something I was saying when people were talking about race issue, whatever the thing is. I'm like, I don't have the capacity to focus on one thing and decide I'm boycotting, I'm not voting, I'm going to take a chance on fucking Donald Trump. And that, I think, is something that a lot of people will have a real awakening and experience with over the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Where it was like James Carville said, it's the economy, stupid, but like it's the economy and so many other things for me.
Yeah.
And for so many Black people.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point. I was listening to something that was similar to that perspective. I'm not sure if you all are like familiar with Scott Galloway. He has a podcast called The Pivot that I listen to, and it talks about like business and stuff like that. And he's also a professor. But he was talking about this concept of the American dream, like you were just talking about, and how a lot of people they're voting for Donald Trump because they feel like they can achieve that 1%. Like even if they're voting for bills that disproportionately benefit the 1%, they see that as an investment because they're pursuing it there. And they think that they're going to get there. And I agree. I think that it's so much more than your hard work. I mean, you listed reasons in which why like we'll never be able to do things that a character like Donald Trump would, even though he's talking about meritocracy. like that obviously doesn't even matter because the people who are being appointed positions are just people who are loyal to him, not necessarily qualified. And that's like the entire American experience. You know what I mean? So this whole thing of like, I'm going to come here, I'm going to work my ass off, and then I'm going to become the 1%. This is just kind of like, it's a pipe dream.
Good luck with that.
I'm frustrated that so many people voted in favor of this administration because of that. Because we see in the exit polls too that a lot of people were voting because of their perceptions on whether or not they feel like Donald Trump was going to be able to help the economy and help them achieve more financial.
All I keep seeing every time he makes a new decision that is like an executive order in this last week
How's
or so.
How's that going to help the price of eggs?
In the comments is, what about the eggs?
I'm going to ask every day.
Is this going to help the eggs?
Is the Gulf of America going to help you with your eggs?
And first of all, and what husband goes grocery shopping with their wife?
That was wild. Oh my God.
So many unhinged things.
I'm like, everybody is I'm just so like, wild.
I'm like, is this a bit?
It's like Saturday. Fox News is SNL.
It's what a world.
I think okay. So going back, you kind of hinted on I think what our next part is, but so backlash against corporate diversity, equity, inclusion practices are in the news every day. It seems at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think this will have a major impact on Black employees, or were these practices just performative from the get-go?
I think it's both.
Yes
and yes.
Yes and yes again.
Yes and.
yes and. And I want to actually, I saw a clip recently that
really Tony.
Tickled me, honey. Oh, it tickled me. It was so good. So, and you've all probably seen this as well, but it was Massachusetts Representative Ayanna Pressley.
Love her.
She took the Republicans in Congress to task over their so-called Dismantle DEI Act back in 2024. She said that the major provision of this bill says to ban anything that acknowledges racism. And a few pages later in the exact same bill, there are multiple provisions discussing racism. On one hand, they're saying that racism does not exist. On the other hand, they're saying that there is rampant reverse racism. Then she posed the question, well, how do you reverse something that never existed? Riddle me that. And so it was just like,
the whole thing is like mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling.
And it's half-baked. And I can't even believe that it's gotten this far.
Yeah, and for me, I'm just like, we know that racism and prejudice does exist. And we know that even if it's not outright blatant, there's still unconscious bias that exists when it comes to hiring and decision-making in corporate spaces. And another thing we know is that when companies are diverse and when the population of the workforce represents and reflects what America actually looks like, or the target customers that these companies are going after, the companies perform better and their work reflects that, and it's more organic and I think it resonates with that target audience in a different way, and it's very apparent. Like you can feel that, you can see that, and so I think that yes, now all of a sudden rolling back the clock on DEI has been a performance this whole time. If all of a sudden now you feel empowered to say that you don't need it anymore, because who's in office right now is it's coming from the top down, and for me it raises a question of what happens when we have different leadership that's not who we have now in office. Do the DEI programs come back?
And am I supposed to believe you?
And am I supposed to believe you?
Yeah, it's so interesting looking at this moment, and then we're doing this like reflection back. So in the summer of 2020, I was interviewing for jobs, and Target, as of yesterday's in the news, and I was interviewing at Target for a role that in merchandising that would help develop Black brands coming into Target. So not
like small brands.
Not a thing saying we got to go find a Black brand and put them on the shelves. It's a program that says like, okay, what does your supply chain look like? What are all the things you need to be successful here, and how can we help you develop? And I think that to me is reflective of so many of the programs that are under attack. Like people are trying to reduce them to like quotas, and people bring in unqualified people to be on shelves at companies or to work in various places, when it's really about opportunity. It's really about fine tuning talent. Like this was a really, really, I thought, a great program that they were doing to not say like, hey, we want you to come in here and we just want to show face that we got niggas on the shelves. We want you to be able to succeed. And if you don't, if you
did you say we got niggas on the shelves?
We got niggas on the shelves. And I thought that was super fucking interesting. And then yesterday I was reading Kiera Fernandez, the Chief Community Impact and Equity Officer at Target, who said, and as a retailer that serves millions of customers every day, we understand the importance of staying in step with the evolving external landscape now and in the future, all in service of driving Target's growth and winning together. And for me, it was just like, I knew we couldn't trust you capitalist niggas.
So Target rolled back.
Target rolled back yesterday.
Oh
yeah, that was
and like, but
the
stripped
most recent
all
company.
the programs away.
Yeah.
Like not even
which
just
is surprising though, because of everything we know, we thought we knew about Target.
I'm just like, I was in 2020, I was interviewing with a job for you all because you all were dedicated to this thing and like this was great work and like all these teams were there. And now you're just like, yeah, the external environment says we shouldn't have that anymore, so we're not going to do it.
Yeah, insanity.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I think, yes, it's performative, and yes, it's definitely going to impact Black employees. Like, I hate that this whole, like, narrative around DEI has been dominated with the narrative that it's underqualified people taking jobs away from more qualified white people. And, you know, like, we all went to Howard. Howard is one of the most, I think, like trafficked like career fairs among HBCUs. And there's even like other schools that bust their students into our career fairs. But the reality is that like a lot of those companies that are on campus are there because of a specific DEI effort. You know what I mean? Trying to find talent. My very first job in New York City was because I was recruited from Howard through a DEI effort from that school. I mean, from that advertising agency. And the thing is, what we're saying is that it's not saying like, give me a job if I'm unqualified. It's like, just look at me. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these companies, they're just going directly to Ivy League, which is predominantly white. Now with, you know, the overturn of affirmative action and having race-based considerations for enrollment, there's less Black people at a lot of these Ivy League institutions. And these companies might not just even see us because they're not making any targeted effort to go to these groups when they know for a fact that we're underfunded and we have less resources. And I just feel like it pisses me off because like people like the three of us and countless people that are in our network, we know that a lot of them even had the visibility for opportunities because of DEI efforts. And now with that going away, it's just kind of like, do we become invisible again? Because before, at least, it was like, okay, you have to make sure that you're working with vendors that are like minority owned. You have to make sure that you're employing DEI efforts to make sure that you're hiring Black people. Without that, I just feel like we're going to see less Black people in these spaces. Less Black people are going to grow in these spaces, and it's just going to become more homogenous at a lot of these organizations. And it's not a meritocracy. It's just not. People have, you know, unconscious bias. And we're already seeing federal employees who are working on DEI efforts being laid off and terminated from their jobs literally in this first week.
Yep.
It's just, it's creating this environment of fear that if you even show that you think that there's a need for marginalized communities to have targeted resources invested into them so that they can have an opportunity, you're on the hit list. And it sucks that these companies don't feel like they have enough money and enough power and enough influence to stick by it and defend it, and that they have to do everything in service of profit and growth. I think it's unfortunate.
So that's one of the arguments, right? Is like these programs are in place. How is it actually on the bottom line, serving the bottom line?
I also think there's this irony to, I think people do all these things that they think they're attacking Black people. Like I think about how that conservative organization used Asian Americans to go after affirmative action in top tier college admissions. And then the next year, you know who's admission stats came down, Asian Americans, not Black people. Like, we look at welfare in America, we look at affirmative action in America. You know who benefits the most from that? White women. It's just like, you think you're putting your foot on the necks of Black people, but like, that's not the reality if you look at the numbers. And I think further, like, I've been having a lot of conversations with people around, like, all of this shit is really about economic standing. Like, if you look at the needs and the desires of Black people or queer people or women of color, poor white people, they're not that fucking different. At least when we're having a discussion around the things that we can gain from government. Like, if we look at programs that help rural farmers, or we look at government programs that hire more diverse people, that helps so many more people than the ones you think you're like pointing to say, oh, that's the Black DEI hire. It's like, no, like you're really just setting yourself up to lose and then protect the 5 white men on top that are all sitting front row at this inauguration.
Yeah. Yep. It's literally like just like the entire attack on trans America. You know what I mean? Like, the stat that I heard was that trans people account for 1% of the population, but the fact that they're such a huge target and people are willing to like get distracted by that and invest in that because they think that they're getting rid of something, I'm like, good luck, because you just got rid of yourself in the process. Well, like,
because the reality is, when you attack one marginalized group, it affects others.
Right.
Like, we look at what happened in the Olympics this summer with that female boxer who they decided she looked too masculine. So then they were like, oh, this trans woman is now attacking this little white girl from Italy. And she's from like a country that doesn't even allow you to be queer or trans. You're putting a cis woman in danger now. Yeah. It's just like, it starts, because like, where does it end? If you just point at this person, like, oh, you look too femme. You must be a trans man. It's like, crazy. No, I'm not. But then now you're in this like fight, and you have all this vitriol, and you have people like Donald Trump calling you out on the internet about stuff, and you're in danger now. Right. So like, the attack on trans people, the attack on queer people, the attack on Black people don't just affect us. It does not just affect us.
Right.
So I thought this was very interesting. So this was a headline in the New York Times. It said Trump's first term turned some Democrats into activists. Now, many of them are struggling to muster their energy to do it again. So just for context here, when his first term ended, we were starting surface level. 5 years later, what do you view as the role of this platform that didn't exist the first time around in resistance work?
Yeah, it's really hard to muster up the energy again to give it that good old fight because it just is. It's exhausting, and the reality is we do get tired. And although that is the posture of a lot of us especially in times like these are the times in which it matters most, where we can't just turn a coat and like lie dormant and let things happen as they are. Like, we have to continue to use our platform to speak truth to power. We have to continue talking about the issues. We have to continue addressing opposing viewpoints and not be afraid to have those conversations with people who disagree with us. And we have to be that example, to continue being that example and having those healthy conversations. We have to continue providing information to our community, especially now, because as we're seeing, a lot of information and resources are being pulled down from websites.
Yeah.
And they're making it harder to get access to that information and to be able to know where to go for certain resources that our community needs so desperately. We have to continue to uncover different ways in which to activate, because activism isn't one size fits all. What one person does to show their activism is not how another person may show up. So we have to continue putting out information around how people can be active and participate in this democracy. And lastly, for me, is we have to continue to hold each other up because in these times we're going to need it. Like, people say now more than ever, but that's real.
Yeah.
Now more than ever.
Right.
Like, I mean it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I posted, or our account posted a quote today from Audre Lorde, and it says, "Without community, there's no liberation." And I think that's kind of like what you're meaning. Like, we need to be there for one another. I think that it kind of goes back to the first question, Damon, that you asked around like POC or just yourself. I think the broader thing that I think that we have an opportunity to do is just kind of like invite in, as we've been doing, and just really allow voices from different walks of life to be able to just like normalize what we're going through. I think in this time it's very easy to sort of like go into yourself and sort of block out the world. But I think more than ever, we need to like hear from one another. We need to also like make room for joy. This is going to be a long 4 years, and I don't want it to be like every day we're reading doom and gloom, and now as a result, like we don't have the motivation to keep going. So I think that what we can do to make sure that we continue with the resistance is, yes, let's continue to bring in experts. Like, I think that's one of the things that I love about our platform, is that we're bringing in these people who are navigating these spaces and are able to thrive in environments that aren't necessarily set up for people like us. And I think that those stories are so important for people who don't benefit from having a in real life community around them to hold them up and keep them motivated and provide them with guidance. So I really think it's just continuing to tell these stories and continuing to make sure that we're talking about the things that are important. And we're continuing to let people know that like there is a community here for you that can support you and hold you up. So kind of like a similar thing to what Tony's saying.
Yeah, I think about a couple of things. First, I would say that Black queer culture has always been the underground, the inspiration for so many people. It's been a thing that didn't need the validation or the support of systems outside of us to thrive and to be fucking dope. Like, you look even like very tangibly at like the ballroom community. You look very tangibly at networks we have in places like Harlem. We weren't looking for corporations. We weren't looking at the government to fucking save us, because they wouldn't. And I think that we are in a place now where, for me, I want to do everything that we have the power to be able to support the people around us that look like us, that love like us, that tell stories like us, that feel like us. And I think it means a couple things. It means, one, conversation and storytelling, which is our main affront. I also think I was watching La Roche on his kind of tour he's been doing for his book, and he was talking about the relationship he has with Zendaya, and he was just like, one of the things that was really powerful is that she would always argue for his rate.
Yeah.
And he was like, you show people you work with that you care about them by changing their financial situation. And I think that as we have had opportunities and as more shit comes along, it's just like, I want to do everything we can to try and hire as many Black queer creatives and people around us and our networks that we can, because like, thank goodness we're having opportunities that can bring money into our sphere, but then also like, what can we do for people who are being discriminated against now because of the current environment? What do we, if it's someone that we actually do know that we've worked with that happened to, how do we support people that we do know that are really fucking talented, who maybe aren't getting as many opportunities and interviews and so on? So like, as we do shows and series and special projects, who can we help change their financial situation in the same way that we have had the fortune of things like that happening for us? So that to me is something really fucking tangible that I think a lot about, and we talk a lot about when we're building our budgets and shit. We're just like, we always joke, we're like, we pay people their rate. Because like, we're not a corporation trying to nickel and dime everybody out of every fucking red cent, because all we care about is our bottom line. Like, our tie to community is more than just fucking words. And that is something that I find very important, that I think that we want to hold true in not just the next 4 years, but just like however long we do this.
Right. And you heard it here first. Surface Level is not rolling back DEI efforts. We stand firm by our company values, and we will continue to invest in the Black and queer communities.
I was watching The View, and when Sonny Hostin said that, you know, Trump was a DEI hire, didn't earn it.
Period.
Right.
Period.
So then finally, for the next 4 years, how are the girls protecting their peace?
Protecting their, you know what I want to do more of, that I've been starting to do a little bit more of, that I probably need y'all help with.
Absolutely not.
Depends on what
I
it
gotta
is.
protect her. I get in it.
I think that I want to come outside in 2025. No, seriously, I mean it. I feel like I've shown that like a little bit. It's January and I've been outside twice. So no, but in actuality, like I was sitting at home and I was just like, I can't just sit behind this computer laptop. Like I have to figure out ways in which like I can prioritize being around people. Like I feel like last year, like it was just kind of like I'm at home, that's my space. And when I have my little free time, I don't want to hear nobody. And so I'm not going out. And I feel like now I need to figure out like, no, I actually need people. What did Ari Lennox say?
Need
people. People. So I want to be outside. And so, yeah, I want to say yes to more opportunities to just be around people and have engagements that aren't necessarily so focused on like the other aspect of my life that's wearing me out.
Yeah. Like I think that is where I would sum up things, is do things that spark joy. That's how you can protect your peace. Also, when it comes to media consumption, monitoring and curating what you're consuming, because just because it's out there in the world doesn't mean you have to consume it. We can play an active role in making sure that you're not getting the breaking news every.
I told you about to unfollow our friend's account.
Yeah, it's like you turn off notifications.
I mute the
You
girls.
I don't even get no notifications.
Mute certain accounts. Pay attention to what's coming into your phone or your computer or your television screen.
Yeah.
And monitoring those things. And also, don't forget to participate. I want to protect my peace by also still being active, but figuring out what that looks like in these times for me. It looks different, but I think that's part of the game and part of the work is continuing to evolve how you participate and being intentional about that. And so those are a few of my Tony's tips and tricks. For protecting your peace.
Yeah, and I would just end with a couple things. Everything can't be resistance. I can't wake up every day resisting.
Oh God.
And I also like for the fucking white liberals who are like, we gotta you shut the fuck up. I've been black my whole damn life. I'm taking a rest on some days. And then second, I would say that the thing I'm dialing less into federal politics. I'm more into local politics and community work. I find a lot of joy looking at like Chiose, a Black representative from New York that's been doing some really amazing work. We've partnered with Ali Fournet often, who I think is doing great work on the ground, because like so much shit is going on at the federal level that it almost makes you forget that like the people in your tangible communities are still doing things and that still exist. And that to me is where I'm focusing my energy and my work and just my consumption. So that's kind of where I am. And that is all the time we have this week. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And remember, stay curious.